So this is just mood music. You still have 5 minutes. Right. What? Oh. Whenever you're ready.
Welcome, and thank you all for coming to our annual Transgender Day of Remembrance Vigil. We're grateful you are here. We particularly want to welcome members of the Harvard Unitarian Universalist Church, whose minister, Reverend Brand Lennox, collaborated with us on this vigil. Representatives of the Chelmsford Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and our speaker, Gabby Morgan from Fenway Health Center. We sent an announcement about this vigil to area churches. When Reverend Lennox responded inquiring about the possibility of a collaboration, we were thrilled at the chance, after over 10 years of doing this, to be working with another UU church on it. Little did we know what a joy it would be. Reverend Lennox first served as music director at First Parish in Malden, where they were ultimately ordained after graduating from Meadville Lombard Theological School, one of the top schools for UU ministers. Their ministerial internship was done at Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church in California. They have also served at First Parish in Brewster. I think the following quote from their autobiography is the best way of introducing Reverend Lennox and giving you a sense of what they bring to the work. Quote, "My ministry is inspired by my own complicated mix of marginalized identities. I'm proudly queer, transgender, neuroatypical, and disabled. I have lived in poverty for most of my adult life and believe that wealth disparity is intersectional with every single other form of oppression we perpetuate. Rather than feeling that these identities are barriers to my ministry, I find that they help me dig deeper, finding new levels of both empathy and productive rage. At the same time, I'm committed to using the privilege afforded to me as a white person to combat white supremacy on any and all levels, and I am dedicated to collective liberation with my colleagues and community members who live with types of marginalization I will never experience. I believe that justice is what it looks like when compassion finds courage," unquote. Reverend Lennox will lead us in lighting the witness flame, which our fellow UUs will recognize as a chalice lighting, and will then introduce us to the history and purpose of the vigil. Welcome, Reverend Lennox.
I'm going to light our chalice this evening with these words from Gordon B. McKeeman. "Let there be light. Let it shine in dark places, in moments of pain, in times of grief, in the darkness of hatred, violence, oppression, where there is discouragement and despair. Wherever shadows are to be put to flight, let there be light." We are gathering this evening in solidarity, in mourning, in heartbreak, and in hope. We are gathering to hold and be held and to dedicate ourselves to a better world. The world we imagine is one in which transgender lives are held sacred, where transgender, non-binary, agender, and gender non-conforming people everywhere are believed, respected, affirmed, and most of all, kept safe. On November 28, 1998, in Allston, Massachusetts, an unknown person entered the apartment of a woman named Rita Hester and murdered her brutally. Rita was a Black trans woman, deeply loved by her friends and family who had moved away from her hometown for the promise of queer community in Boston. On that November evening, when Rita's dreams met a violent end, she joined the ranks of trans people throughout time who have lost their lives to murder. Indeed, every year, an appalling number of transgender neighbors, friends, siblings, and beloveds have their lives taken from them. Discrimination, bias, and cis-sexism are all to blame for many of these deaths, and so tonight we gather to observe the tradition of remembering them all and mourning this legacy of heartbreaking loss. The first Transgender Day of Remembrance was held in 1999 in memory of Rita Hester, and since then it has spread worldwide. Today, it is more important than ever to observe this sobering vigil as transgender people find their rights and agency threatened, their personhood erased, and their value as humans debated cruelly through all channels of news and media. 2022 has been, once again, a painful year to be trans. Yet here we are, reminding each other that we are not alone. Those of us who are present representing our own marginalized genders, those of us who have gathered because we love someone of a marginalized gender, and those who show up because your heart is touched by the suffering of trans people everywhere. Tonight, we're facing the bitterness of cold and the uncertainty of the future, and we're facing it together. And we will carry on in solidarity until every last trans life is held in love worldwide.
When we first started holding this vigil, it was a scramble to find the names and format them in time. Over the years, thank you, various people systematically collected information on homicides and suicides of transgender people. Most recently, Anna Jane Metcalf in the UK created the Remembering Our Dead website, which not only collects the information, but collates it in a way that is useful for those who are holding vigils, providing photos when possible, organized lists of the people to remember, and other information. We have her to thank for the basis of our slideshow tonight, and Keeter Thomas and Frances Killam for organizing the pieces so beautifully. We will present a slideshow that includes pictures of people remembered and a candle lit for each transgender person's death reported between October 1st last year and September 30th this year. Although the names of some victims were not known or were not released because they were not out, we will acknowledge each person individually to honor them all with dignity and respect, something the news reports of their deaths often did not do. There are 371 persons to remember this year, with the reports coming from 42 countries. On the one hand, it is disheartening that this is almost double the number of countries in previous years. On the other hand, transphobia does exist around the world, and that there are more countries reporting at least means that there are more countries where folks can safely collect the information. Though Europe is generally seen as more tolerant, 4 European countries had multiple deaths, with the UK having the worst record. 70 people were from the United States. Sadly, 14 of the US deaths, including the 2 youngest, 14 and 15, felt it necessary to take their own lives. The majority of people being remembered were from Brazil, the USA, Mexico, Colombia, and Pakistan. Ironically, the higher numbers from those countries are in part because there are support groups there that feel safe enough and strong enough to collect information. 23 locations in the US saw multiple transgender deaths, considerably more than last year, probably reflecting the rhetorical and legislative attacks on the community that have swept across the country. I just learned today that there's an estimate that something like $50 million was spent in the last year on anti-trans political ads. This has got to stop. Anyhow, Texas again had the worst record, and followed by Florida, Mississippi, California, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. There were again more deaths reported in the US than in Mexico, though we consider ourselves the more liberal of the 2 countries. And several of the states reporting multiple deaths are among those with full LGBTQIA+ legal protections. Clearly, there is work to do here. We know the information is incomplete because countries that are known to be problematic reported very few or no deaths. Only 1 death was reported from Africa, and only 3 from the Middle East, though those 2 areas we know have records of intolerance. It is simply too unsafe for people to be organized enough to collect information there. You should also be aware that most of the deaths in the US were people of color who suffered the double whammy of transphobia and racism. 98% of the deaths worldwide were transgender women or transfeminine people, a statistic that did not vary much for the US. The people we are remembering tonight ranged in age from 14 to 50. The majority were in their 20s and 30s. While the average life expectancy in the US is around 70, the average life expectancy for a transgender person is 31 to 32, not just because of hate crimes, but also because of a high rate of suicide. The people remembered died in a variety of ways as a consequence of being transgender, including not just violence, but custodial neglect, medical neglect or discrimination, COVID-19, and suicide. At least one died from complications of the plastic surgery that is part of gender transition for many. It is difficult to find good gender-affirming medical care in parts of this country, and it is expensive and not always covered by insurance, leading to unnecessary deaths. Some died in police custody. Hate kills in so many ways. We hold this vigil so that the world cannot ignore the deaths, in the hope that someday the vigil will not be necessary, and so that the transgender community knows there are people from outside their community who care. Those we remember tonight were someone's parent, child, sibling, friend, or lover, and they are missed by those who loved them. They had a variety of careers, including student, activist, and artist. At least two died saving the lives of others during attacks. Often they are described as gentle, beautiful souls who gave nothing but kindness and love to those who knew them. As the names are read, we ask that you hold each one in light and think of them that way. It has been our practice to say, "We remember," after a group of names is read. At the end of each reader's list, a slide saying, "We remember" will appear. Please feel free to join in.
Neela, Bangladesh. Isabella Alvarez Bella, México. Rosa Salvaje, México. Valeria, México. Este Sawe, Philippines. Ruani, Brazil. Wafa, Pakistan. Milena, Brazil. Nicole Ruiz, Argentina. Luna Flores, México. Chocolatito Anzorra, El Salvador. Serena Brennan, Salem, Oregon. Name unknown, Brazil. Semaj Sincere Billingsley, Jacksonville, Florida. Susana Villarreal, Susi, Mexico. Carolina de León Montaño, Ecuador. Victoria Magalis, Brazil. Teresa Montaño, Mexico. Luis Fernandez Casé, Brazil. Renato Estrada, Guatemala. Salomé, Uruguay. Name unknown, Brazil. Paloma Cruz, Brazil. Jessica Martinez, Ecuador. Malte C., Germany.
Marimar Santiago Astrolita, Mexico. Violeta Marujos, Mexico. AC D. Morrison, Rapid City, South Dakota. Diana Navarro, Colombia. Victoria Alejandra Irinichi, Argentina. Donna Alejandra Navas Corredor, Colombia. Name unknown, Mexico. Pamela, Peru. Monica Lorenz E. Lorenzi, Spain. Name unknown, Mexico. Sofia Vera, Argentina. Bia, Brazil. Rodrigo Ventosia, Indonesia. Name unknown, Brazil. Name unknown, Mexico. Ignacia Palma, Chile. Isabella Yanka, Brazil. Muskan, India. Maricela Castro, Houston, Texas. Sarah Nicole Munoz Palacios, Colombia. Desian Franca, Desi Ann Diogenes Franca Santos, Brazil. Hayden Neva Davis, Detroit, Michigan. Camilla Marie Swan, D.D. Condi Red, Kansas City, Missouri. Shanaz, Pakistan.
Lavinia da Silva Pereira, Brazil. Name unknown, Brazil. Kashia Chanel Jeter, Augusta, Georgia. Sasha Barrio Nueva, Argentina. Belize Ortiz, Mexico. Renatina, Brazil. Ana Paula Albino Lovera, Colombia. Twa Davis, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Nikki, India. Tamara Campos, Mexico. Lara Croft, Brazil. Martasia Richmond, Chicago, Illinois. Sabrina Houston, Estonia. Taylor, United Kingdom. Name unknown, Mexico. Isabella Sandoval, Colombia. Jasper Aaron Lynch, McLean, Virginia. Cherry Bush, Los Angeles, California. C. A. Castillo Morales, Mexico. Nancy Sakul Tut, Guatemala. Kitty Monroe, Memphis, Tennessee. Gromada, Brazil. Victoria de Lima, Brazil. Estrelita Martinez Correa, Colombia.
Kaif, Pakistan. Carmen Lucia Alves de Souza, Lu, Brazil. Shanene McClung, Gulfport, Mississippi. Name unknown, Mexico. Name unknown, Brazil. FC Ferreira Lima, Brazil. Daniele do Carmo Santos, Brazil.
Brazil Johnson, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Tharafong Lamluia, Thailand. Paris Rich, San Diego, California. Viane Neverete, Mexico. Atina Queiroz da Silva, Brazil. Suani Maradiaga, Honduras. Chloe Bianco, Italy. Estefania Fernandez, Betty, Colombia. Sasha, Italy. Shiza, Pakistan. Virgil Catalonia Tumacat, Philippines. Lorraine Alves, Brazil. Lu Enrique, Brazil. Camilla Bertolotti, Italy. Camilla Bolocco, Camilla Ignacia, Mexico. Carla Machado Noya, Colombia. Rexy Q, Wichita, Kansas. Yuridia Pizarro, Chile.
Name unknown, Mexico. Shanalika Yella Dior Hemingway, also known as Sid, Albany, New York. Rainy Fada, Brazil. I, Pakistan. Camila, Brazil. Amy Winehouse, Honduras. Joyce Medeiros, Brazil. Alice Littman, United Kingdom. Dee Dee Hall, Dallas, Texas. La Flaca, Colombia. Bianca Mercado Rodriguez, Brazil. Donna Nunes, Brazil. Lara Skywalker, Brazil. Maddie Dickens, Roseville, Minnesota. Maddie Hoffman, Malvern, Pennsylvania. Monica Ribeiro, Brazil. Kay Abdul Jahir, Philippines. Sharon Celine Matthew, India. Name unknown, Brazil. Estefany Rodriguez Soros, Brazil. Nedra Sequence Morris, also known as Sequence, Opalaca, Florida. Bruna, Brazil. Sanyana, India. Sasha Mason, Zebulon, North Carolina. Name unknown, France. Michelle S. Terrio, New York. Angel Rodriguez Hernandez, also known as Zemina, Mexico. Melanie Fox, Mexico. Paris Victoria's Secret, Mexico. Pepa Alvarez, Mexico. Ray Muscat, Independence Township, Michigan. Trini, Mexico. Naomi Fernandez de Sousa, Brazil. Adelia Garcia Castaño, Colombia. Carla Chris, Brazil.
Ana Souza, Brazil. Michelle Marque, also known as Mona, Brazil. Carla, Mexico. Name unknown, India. Mariana Jaramillo, Colombia. Damien Fraser, Canada. C. Macias, Brazil. Roxy Tumbaco Orala, Ecuador. Asher Garcia, Fraser, Minnesota. Sabrina Caligari, Brazil. Carla Michelle Chavira Chavez, Mexico. Morgana, Italy. Renata Cavalcante, also known as Renata Ferraz, Brazil. Kenna Lee Gillick, Gold Hill, Oregon. Kelly Kesey Rosa, Brazil. Tiffany Landino Bracho, Colombia. Ace Scott, Kansas City, Missouri. Larissa Carvalho, Brazil. Name unknown, Brazil. Name unknown, Cambodia. Ferrandinha, Brazil. Mildred Castillo Jimenez, Colombia. R. da Silva Franco, Brazil. Fern Feather, Morristown, Vermont. Name unknown, Mexico. Felice Joy, Moldova. Anika, India. Name unknown, Brazil. Name unknown, Mexico. Lucia Smith, Colombia.
Amani Frieden, Brazil. Name unknown, Mexico. Christian, Mexico. Grecia Devora, Mexico. Crislaine dos Santos, Brazil. Shelani Valoria, called Ricky Pariki, Colombia. Yaneth, Mexico. Name unknown, Mexico. Ariana Mitchell, Hampton, Virginia. Mia Love Parker, Chester, Pennsylvania. Ezra Amos, Canada. Fernanda Lopez Somer, Argentina. Marcela Gomez Fonseca, Brazil. Lorena, Brazil. M. Sheikh, India. Mirza Hélène Deneuve, called Jules, France. Kai Khan, Great Bend, Kansas. Coconut, Pakistan. Keisha Webster, Jackson, Mississippi. S, Pakistan. Yessi Montero, Mexico. VRV, Mexico. Estrelita Saltos Robalino, Ecuador. Priscilla Santos, called Priscilla Diva, Brazil. Celine Gabriela Colentinho, called Nati, Argentina. Samira Iftikhar, Pakistan. Tatiana LaBelle, called Titi, Chicago, Illinois. Shand, Pakistan. Mano, Pakistan. Elise Mallory, Evanston, Illinois.
Paula Mesquita, Brazil.
Catherine Newhouse, Canton, Georgia. Luo, China. Duda Marins, Brazil. Isabella de Harujo Farias, Brazil. Viridiana, Mexico. Brentwood, Seattle, Washington. Milo Winslow, Lincoln, Nebraska. Adrienne Baptiste Lucas, France. Luana Rico Costa, Brazil. Catherine Salazar, Bolivia. Paloma Vasquez, Houston, Texas. Veronica Martinelli, Brazil. Name unknown, Germany. Bruna Kimberly, Brazil. Samuel Hoffman, Sweden. Britney Spears, Brazil. Gabriele Monteiro, Brazil. Pamela, Mexico. Tiffany Meneses, Colombia. Gabby Matos, Brazil. Isabella Vargas, Colombia. Dorce Gamalama, Indonesia. Joanna Sanchez, Colombia. Larissa Correa, Brazil. Cypress Ramos, Lubbock, Texas. C. de Aravedo Soares, Brazil. J. L. da Silva, Brazil. Naomi Skinner, Highland Park, Michigan. Sophia Gisley, Brazil. Julia dos Santos Silva, Brazil. Sabrina Fernando de Oliveira, Brazil. Bunty, Pakistan. Iggy Rose, United Kingdom. Loren Guzman, Mexico. Priscilla Santos, Brazil.
Destiny Lachey Matthew Ventris, Houston, Texas. Matthew Angelo Spampinato, Newcastle, Delaware. Shay Patton Walker, United Kingdom. Nicoli, Brazil. Beatriz Souza, Beatrice Bastos, France. Valentin Quezada Saldias, Chile. Kimberly Villegas, Colombia. Hanar, Iran. Name unknown, United Kingdom. Bella Analia Vera, Ecuador.
Michelle, Brazil. Diane Cavalcante da Silva, Brazil. Zariv Soylu, Turkey. Name unknown, Brazil. Pamela Correa, Brazil. Leon Pindo Cuenca, Ecuador. Alexa Vale Landaverde, El Salvador. Doski Azad, Iraq. Name unknown, Pakistan. Babalu Vendramini, Brazil. Citali, Mexico. Paulina Ferrara, Brazil. Simia Garcia, Mexico. Arelis Cabezas, Sierra, Colombia. Wendy Espinoza, Ecuador. Emma Boland, United Kingdom. Perola Almeida, Stephanie Melody, Brazil. Name unknown, Brazil. Gael Pandinho, Brazil. Gune Azildis, Turkey. Karina Lopez, Mexico. Name unknown, Argentina. Natasha Simonini, Italy. Paloma, Mexico. Jasmine da Silva, Brazil. Dalia Rodriguez, Honduras. Kaue Westenberg, Brazil. Lovely, Bangladesh. Name unknown, Pakistan. F. E. Caetano, Brazil. Christian Nicola, Ecuador. Diana Carrington, Mexico. Blair Envy, United Kingdom. Carla Valentina Espinoza Lor, Ecuador. Aldana Lorenz, Argentina. Zen Black, United Kingdom. Blenda Schneider, Beatrice, Brazil. Brisa Garces Flores, Netherlands. Duval Princess, Jacksonville, Florida. Joseline Calito, Guatemala.
Amari Lage, also called Miara, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Nikki Turrieta, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Amelia Furness Leonhardt, Idaho Falls. Barbara Guaymaran, Guatemala. Bielzino Costa, Brazil. Kayahona Stone, Indianapolis. Name unknown, Pakistan. Angie Carolina Patignon, Colombia. Sony, India. Melina Zarita Plaza, Ecuador. Usha Rani, India. Zania Williams, Houston, Texas. Lara Vinny, Brazil. Shirley, Pakistan. Tofe, Pakistan. Kamari Amorim, Brazil. Pani Malar, India. Akshita, India. Ashu, India. Sarahi Atenea Saray Ramos Izaguirre, Mexico. Name unknown, Pakistan. Vigil, Pakistan. Yasmine Fontes, Brazil. Cristina Cantillo Martinez, Colombia. La Divaza, Colombia. Amari Lage, also called Miara, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Nikki Turrieta, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Amelia Furness Leonhardt, Idaho Falls. Barbara Guaymaran, Guatemala. Bielzino Costa, Brazil. Kayahona Stone, Indianapolis. Name unknown, Pakistan. Angie Carolina Patignon, Colombia. Sony, India. Melina Zarita Plaza, Ecuador. Usha Rani, India. Zania Williams, Houston, Texas. Lara Vinny, Brazil. Shirley, Pakistan. Tofe, Pakistan. Kamari Amorim, Brazil. Pani Malar, India. Akshita, India. Ashu, India. Sarahi Atenea Saray Ramos Izaguirre, Mexico. Name unknown, Pakistan. Vigil, Pakistan. Yasmine Fontes, Brazil. Cristina Cantillo Martinez, Colombia. La Divaza, Colombia.
Mani, Colombia. Name unknown, Brazil. Andrea Presila de Melo, Brazil. Martina Caldera, Channelview, Texas. Dedia, Turkey. Nikai David, Oakland, California. Artemisa Dominguez, Mexico. Estrella, Colombia. Talita Saures, Brazil. Berak, Turkey. Name unknown, Pakistan. Name unknown, India. Apinat Plukpluem, Thailand. Ceci de Rosas, Mama Osa, Mexico. Alejandra Valeria Lopez, Colombia. Gabriela Cabrera Gabby, Paraguay. Haley Gabriela Feldman, Beach, North Dakota. Helen Bridget Maldonado, Ecuador. Julia Madsen Rogerio Diego de Santos, Brazil. Kitty Russo, Panama. Angel Naira, Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. Joy Diaz Jimenez, Venezuela. La Raya, Brazil. Danielle Johnson, Memphis, Tennessee. Kauni Circo, Brazil. Marquisha Lawrence, Greenville, South Carolina. Alicia Diaz, Mexico. Jenny De Leon, Tampa, Florida. Carla Tovar, Venezuela. A.G., Georgia. Huapaya Morales, Peru. Ricky Otomuro, True Starlet, Centralia, Washington. Joey Spencer, JoJo, Mount Airy, North Carolina. Joe Aker, Boise, Idaho. Dalipitabro Max, France. Agata Luana, Brazil. Vitoria Rodriguez Ferraz, Brazil. Dalila, Brazil. Name unknown, Brazil. Jesse Hart, Banks, Oregon.
Sofia Clementina Noriega, Argentina. Name unknown, Brazil. Kiva Sculptor, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Stephanie Ferrara de Oliveira, Brazil. Taida Lebon, New York. Yaki Najera, Mexico. Mel Robert Groves, Jackson, Mississippi. Paola Lagaga, Colombia. Zehava, Israel. El Cho, Yucca Valley, California. Carol Souza, Brazil. Andrea Velasco Amaya, Colombia. Saima, Pakistan. Nefes Balkan, Turkey. Robertina da Silva, Brazil. Gabriela Irente, Hannah, Brazil. Name unknown, Guatemala. Royal Poetical Stars, Miami Gardens, Florida. La Pocha, Ecuador. Danifi, Brazil.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How deeply you're connected to my soul.
We know that the names we've read tonight are not the whole picture. In so many countries, it is so unsafe to be out, and the authorities so often misgender and dead name people that we can never have an accurate list. We know that there are many countries where information is not available because it is too unsafe for support groups to even exist. If there is a death you would like remembered that we were unaware of, please say the name aloud now. We will light a candle for them.
We will light one candle for all
We're lighting one candle for all the names we do not know. And as we finish the reading of this year's names of those lost from the transgender community, we ask you to include a silent remembrance for all the uncounted people lost to hate. We end the reading of names with a fervent prayer that next year's list will be shorter and that we will be closer to a world where a vigil like this is not necessary. Please join now in singing the unison song led by Francis Killam.
Hi. So we're going to do This Little Light of Mine. I added a different verse at the end. Trans folks sing out loud. So sing along if you are inclined. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Hey. Trans folks sing out loud, we're gonna let it shine. Trans folks sing out loud, we're gonna let it shine. Trans folks sing out loud, we're gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. And now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Gabby Morgan. You know, I have this long introduction, but I think Gabby speaks for herself. So I'm going to let her introduce herself.
I think it's right at the right height and everything. Maybe. Hello there. My name's Gabby Morgan, and I'm a very proud transgender woman. Gabriella, I kept seeing that name up there tonight, and I didn't name myself from a list like that, but I don't know if I could be any more proud of standing behind that name after seeing that and reading along with it. The name that was up there that bothered me more than anything else, though, was Name Unknown. I stop and think about that, and how is a name unknown? Is it that were these people assaulted to the point where they couldn't be recognized or identified in some way? Or that's one of them. But the other thing that bothered me is that maybe, aren't their parents looking for them in some case? And if not, why not? Probably know why. If they don't know where they are, they're not looking for them because they weren't there for them, which leads to one of the problems that makes us, here for a night like tonight. I'm going to talk about me for a couple minutes and then a little bit about what I do and about this observance. But first, I find something more important. To the parents of trans kids, and not just your own, nieces, nephews, neighbors, things like that, thank you for loving your children. That should be the most unnecessary thing that anybody ever says about my children. Of course you're going to love them. Name unknown. So it isn't a given thing. So it's appreciated, and you're doing the right thing, and it's parents loving their children that might get one less name up there next year. And me, it's funny, when I do speaking things, people often ask me what I'm going to speak about, and I say, I'm going to feel it, from the crowd and all that, and that'll direct me. And then I said, well, tonight's kind of serious. So I should kind of prepare at least some thoughts and all that. But they have a right to be upset because I'm just going for it right now after being here and talking to people and seeing that and wishing it was a little bit shorter next year. Yeah, Gabrielle Miranda Morgan, and I'm proud of that name today. When I was a little kid, a few years ago, a woman had said to me, "It's a tough question. Tell me, Gabby, when did you decide you wanted to become a woman?" And I said, well, it's not a tough question, but see, because I never decided I was going to be. This wasn't like, oh, this will upset Mom. This was when I was about 5 years old. I was in kindergarten, and teachers were, okay, boys over here, girls over there. And right off the bat, it's like, okay, this isn't good. We got a little problem here. But there was nobody to look up to. We didn't know what the word transgender was back then. There was nobody on television. We didn't have internet to tell us about that. We didn't have people forming to talk about it. You just had to keep it a secret. And even at that young age, I knew another reason we're here is because if somebody thought that a boy was, acting like a girl, or when the girl was a tomboy for a little bit too long, there was something wrong. And there were name calling, and rocks were thrown at these people, or worse, they'd end up on a list like this. And I knew that at that age already. And so I knew that I had to keep it a secret, which is way more of a secret than any kid that tall should have. Feeding the dog under the table, that's an okay secret. I'm a different person than you think I am, and I can't tell you who I am because I'm terrified. That's too much. When I was 10, I remember I was at a party my uncle and aunt were having, and they left a drink out on the table. And I grabbed it and I drank it down. I was, did it taste good? Now I was 10, it was whiskey. It tasted terrible. But it kind of did the trick. It lessened the pain I had, and I could actually sleep that night. And for years, that would be my crutch, how I could get around it. And I knew that I could never talk to anybody about it, so I adapted that boy persona, and I roughhoused, and I got into some fights. I played sports and all that. Part of that was, watch me, down a beer, that kind of thing. And that became just a regular routine. I even drank in school. I went to a pretty kind of prominent school in Boston. It was an all-boys school, so they thought anyway, but, it's not anymore. But that just became my routine. When I was 19, I remember even the drinking and, being able to carry on the act, that wasn't quite enough. And I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And I decided one night that I didn't want to wake up the next morning. And I took measures to make that happen. And unfortunately, that would go on to become a regular routine. I would drink too much. I'd make sure I put on the boy act. and then I would probably do something that, would make not getting up tomorrow possible. And that was just a routine. I could go, that was like 19 or so. I could tell you about my 20s, my 30s, my 40s. It's the same thing. It's like, a Hallmark movie where, it's a different faces and different places, but the story. It always ends the exact same way. Except mine wasn't a happy ending. And it just went on and on and on. Needless to say, with all the drinking and hiding the secrets, my life ended up terrible. I was always afraid that somebody would figure out who I was. And it was just no way to live. And I lost everything and, got married, got unmarried, got in trouble with work, in my car, unfortunately. I'm not proud of all that, but it became who I was, and I owned it. And then I was living up in Maine for a few years, and I moved back to Boston in 2012. And same behavior. I knew who I was keeping the secret, and I just went on and just digging a hole. My life totally had bottomed out at that point. And, just drinking heavily, hiding my secret, and usually making some attempts to take my own life. And that's because I was terrified that somebody might do something like call me a name, or, I knew about the violence that was out there, and I just couldn't face it. I didn't have the courage to do that. Then I made a friend in 2015. We were in a bar, actually, and she was married to a woman, and we were just very open about things. Her wife was traveling, and we became very good friends. And out of the blue one night, she says, "So what important secret is it you need to talk to me about?" I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? I thought there was like a little comic strip bubble over my head or something. And I said, there is something I need to talk about. And I couldn't tell her that night, but a couple weeks later, I just put my head on her shoulders, and I said, "Kate, I'm a woman." And she said, "Oh, cool. Do you have a name?" I said, "Yeah, it's Gabrielle. I think I'm probably more of a Gabby, though." And she said, "Great, Gabby." And went on, and I had said to her that night, this was January 19th of 2016. I was 59 years, 7 months, and 21 days old. The first person I ever told was something like that age, I guess. Yeah, I took it seriously. And then I joked with her. I said, "You know what? A year from now, you won't even notice any difference. I just needed somebody to tell my secret to." I became the poster child for, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. Because a month later, I said, "Well, who did I tell? I told her, but not him." And I said, "I can't do this anymore." I came out on Facebook. And the next thing I know, by the end of the day, I had 160 people that liked it and supported me with nice comments, old girlfriends, things like that. And I immediately, one of the things I said initially was, I never had the courage to tell anybody about this, but so many others did. So many of the others had rocks thrown at them, and just stood up when it wasn't cool to do that. And there was no support groups, no internet, no people gathering on a Saturday night to support people. And I started to lose my train of thought there. But I knew that I had to get active. And politically, there was a lot going on back then. I remember showing up. The first time I was out, full glam Gabby, was the day they raised the transgender flag at Boston City Hall for the first time. And then there were things going on in 2018 with the Vote Yes on Question 1 campaign, just to give us rights. We weren't looking for favors. We weren't looking for advantages. If that hadn't passed, I wouldn't be allowed to go into a restaurant, or they called it the bathroom bill. But I couldn't, that also would stop me from going into a restaurant or a movie theater. The manager could just say, "No, you're trans, get out of here." That's the way the law was. And you wonder why people, couldn't handle it. And people just looked down on all of us at that point, but I knew that I had to give back at that point. I wanted to be that person I wished I had. And then as the more I got active, by 2020, I knew that during a pandemic, actually, I went through surgeries, 3 of them, during a pandemic. I was committed. The year before that, I went through a long, arduous process of getting my name legally changed. And the reason one of the things in my head when I was doing that, not just I wanted to be Gabby, really, and all that, but I was terrified that if anything happened to me, if I had gotten beaten up or shot on the street, my name up there would be my old name, and nobody would even acknowledge Gabrielle. So again, I had to move forward. I started getting introduced to different organizations, and Transgender Day of Remembrance became very big, and I went to a few ceremonies and observances. And I befriended a woman who actually used to hang out with Rita Hester in 1998 and was there for the original introduction in 1999. It's really important. As I say, transgender people kind of have two holidays. You know, at the end of March, we have Transgender Day of Visibility, and it's a happy celebration kind of thing. Tonight is not so much, or tomorrow, a celebration, but an observance and a reminder that we can't let things like that continue. I mean, I looked at a thing. Last year, President Biden addressed the nation, just this week. And, he was talking, and the number at the time, he announced that in the U.S., 46 people, transgender people had already died that year. And I'm looking for something. And it turned out that, it was the end of November. By the end of December, a month later, that number was 56. And then this year, there are already 32, and that's only the ones that are reported as a homicide, as an assault. That doesn't count people driven to suicide, people who end up with terrible health and die for other reasons to that. We have to acknowledge that. We have to be there. We can't be the parents that let their kids be name unknown. It's at the end of President Biden's speech, he said, "Transgender people are some of the bravest Americans I know, but no person should have to be brave just to live in safety and dignity. Today we remember, tomorrow and every day we must continue to act." And that's what we have to do, and it's supporting here and being there for the kids and people that you see on the street. And don't let other people, degrade them or injure them, or worse, get their names on that list. Boy, would I love to be back here next year and say, "Oh, no, we're not doing it this year." There's no list. Unrealistic, but boy, something to dream about. The bravest people. I never considered myself brave. But then I also heard that, courage is not the absence of fear. I didn't invent this. FDR and Meg Cabin people said it. Courage is not the absence of fear, but recognizing that something has to be more important than that fear. So we have to address this. People ask me if I had regrets I came out so late in life. And I said, I used to. I would have loved to have been the 17-year-old giggling, picking out a prom dress, or, looking hot at 22. Or even, if the doctor had said to my mom, "Hey, Trudy, you got a healthy baby girl here." But that wasn't. And I couldn't look at it that, because if that was me, would I have appreciated it? Or would I have taken it for granted? I'd love to tell you no, I'd be just as active as I am now, but I don't know that. So I came out when I did at the right time at almost 60 years old, back in 2016, and I'm grateful for that. Because everything about it was fear. Fear is like our greatest enemy. I had 3 fears, actually. One, that people would figure out who I was, and I couldn't let that happen. 2, the drinking was going to kill me before I could kill myself. And 3, public speaking. I'm trying to get by that now. Being myself, I could not be more proud of who I am. I'm not better than anybody, but I'm not worse because of who I am. The drinking, I am very happy to say that I happen to look, because somebody asked me today, I'm 5 years and 8 months sober. And, that's something I'm very grateful for. Thank you. And with things like that, I don't, will myself not to wake up tomorrow morning. I'm grateful my name's not on there. I've been assaulted. But I'm just grateful to be here. It all starts with insulting people or disrespecting trans people. And I was speaking at my church a couple years ago, Hope Central in Jamaica Plain. And right before I was going up there, it was on Transgender Visibility, actually, I had gotten over the fear of public speaking a little bit, I thought. But that morning, I was terrified. And it was like 5 minutes before I was going to speak, and the jitters and the butterflies, and I was getting dizzy. I thought I was going to pass out. And just as before I'm there and, terrified, this woman walked by me, and she says, "Gabby, I'm looking forward to hearing you talk today. By the way, really cute boots." And I laughed, and, all these old things. But then I went up and talked, and I wasn't afraid. So I just want to say, if I could, and it was because of what that woman said to me. And it wasn't a pep talk or anything. She just complimented my boots. So if you have the chance, rather than to grade somebody, say something nice to them today or tomorrow, or next time you see them. It just might change their day altogether and make things a little bit better for them. And things are better for me today because I am so grateful to be invited here. And thank you for letting me be a part of it. Aging project, so I help 50-year-old plus transgender older adults. And we have a lot of programs going on, always there for the community, and I just couldn't be more grateful about where I'm working and being able to give back a little bit. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. All right. So we have one more song, and that's it. Abby, just the closing. If only I had read the program. Okay. This is Lean on Me. So if you know it, sing it. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if you are wise, you know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me. If you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call a brother and you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road I'll bear your load. If you just call me. If you need a friend, call me. I'm telling you to call me. Okay, so in closing, we'd like to thank you all for coming, for acknowledging the many lives that have been lost to violence today, just for being your authentic self. But we have things to look forward to. Trans lives matter, and that's becoming truer and more important every day. Thank you very much. Good night.